So often we fight with God for the pen of our lives. We want to hold the pen because we want to be the author. We want to have some say in how the story of our lives unfolds. And we often don't understand why God has us in a certain place. We don't understand why God writes certain strange characters into our story. We don't understand why sometimes God writes in plot twists. And we begin to ask questions like, why haven't I arrived? Why do I feel like I'm in this holding pattern? Why do I feel like I'm stuck in this same place? Why do I feel so dissatisfied? And when we begin to ask these types of questions, we run the risk of no longer being thankful for where God has us in life. And we develop this the grass is always greener on the other side type of syndrome, and we begin to get a little whiny and we begin to complain about our situation. If I had greater influence in my community, then I could. If I had a different job, a better paying job, then I could. If I didn't have this, if I didn't have that. And we often try to spiritualize our complaining, and we say things like, if I had greater influence in my community, then I could impact the community for Christ in a greater way. Or we say, if I had a better paying job, then I could tithe more to the church. Friends, we can take an old beat up car that doesn't run anymore and we can give it a brand new paint job, but in the end, we're still going to have a car that doesn't run. And when we try to spiritualize our complaints, in the end, what we're left with is a complaint. And we may be fooling our spouse, we may be fooling our neighbors or our small group or our Sunday school class or whatever it is, but the reality is that God can spot a complaining spirit and an unthankful spirit from a mile away. I can think of no greater example of this in the scripture than the people of Israel. God has them wandering in the desert for 40 years, and they're grumpy and they're whining and they're complaining and they're wondering what it is that God has gotten them into. What is it that God has planned for them? Why is it that it feels as though they're just stuck in this holding pattern? It talks about this in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verses 1 to 9. And in those verses, it says this: if you fully obey the Lord your God by keeping all the commands I am giving you today, the Lord your God will exalt you above all the nations of the world. You will experience all these blessings if you obey the Lord your God. You will be blessed in your towns and in your country. You will be blessed with many children and productive fields. You will be blessed with fertile herds and flocks. You will be blessed with baskets overflowing with fruit and with kneading bowls filled with bread. You will be blessed wherever you go, both in coming and in going. The Lord will conquer your enemies when they attack you. They will attack you from one direction, but they will scatter from you in 7. The Lord will bless everything you do and will fill your storehouses with grain. The Lord your God will bless you in the land he is giving you. If you obey the commands of the Lord your God and walk in his ways, the Lord will establish you as his holy people, as he solemnly promised to do. Did you catch that? He says you're going to be blessed. He says you're going to be exalted. He said you're going to be blessed in town and out of town. He says you're going to be blessed when you come and when you go. He says your bowls will be overflowing. He says your children will be blessed. He said you will be attacked, but he tells us that he will fight for us. God tells us to focus on the one thing that's our job. He says, you let me do my job and you do your job, and I hope you caught it. He said that our only job is to obey the commands of the Lord. Friends, I believe God is calling us to be thankful for exactly where he has us. And I want you to really understand what's happening when we begin to question where God has us. What's really happening is that we're questioning God's judgment. We begin to think things like, God, if you really knew me, then you would have me in a different situation. God, if you really understood my heart, then you would have me in a different situation. God, if you really understood my gifts and my talents and my potentials, then you would have me in a different situation. Are we really suggesting that the one who knit us together, are we really suggesting that the one who created us in our mother's womb doesn't understand who we are and isn't aware of our potential? C.S. Lewis said it like this. He said, we do not know the role that we play. We don't even know whether we are in Act 1 or Act 5. we are led to expect that the author will have something to say to each one of us who has played. The playing it well is what matters infinitely. In a few days, each of us is going to come face to face with the Thanksgiving holiday, a day where we're called to be thankful for our family and our friends and our jobs. But I wonder this Thanksgiving if we might make the choice to dig a little deeper and to truly thank God for exactly where He has us and who He has us there with. Be encouraged and keep moving forward.